Hey guys, I'm Luke Reinhardt, owner of the Clinch Academy in Frederick, Maryland. I believe that one of the things that sets our school apart from others is some of the amazing mat chats that we have. I believe that as martial artists, we need to continue to grow mentally as well as physically. So we grow physically through all the training and all the hard work, and that also helps us grow into mental toughness. But we also need to practice things like the warrior code, which help us grow mentally, not only in the academy, but also out of the academy in everyday life. And that's what these mat chats are about. I hope you enjoy them. Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about 3 words. We want to talk about self-control, self-discipline, and desire. Self-control is basically the ability to keep yourself from doing something that you want to do. Alright, so maybe, for instance, I want to go on a diet, I don't want to eat any more sweets. Self-control would be the ability for me to not eat the sweets. Alright? Self-discipline basically is the ability to force yourself to do something that you don't want to do. So maybe I usually like to eat cookies, and I decide it would be better to eat carrots for a snack. So I use self-control not to eat the cookies, and I use self-discipline to eat the carrots. Alright? So it's kind of the basics of self-control and self-discipline. Now desire, I believe it's hard for us to self-control and to self-discipline unless our desire is there first. So for instance, if somebody's training in Jiu-Jitsu and maybe it's a kid, maybe their parents are bringing them here because they want them to learn self-defense, but the kid doesn't really want to be here, that kid is not going to learn as well as the kid who wants to be here, who desires to be here. So the kid who desires to be here and desires to learn is going to discipline themselves to pay attention, to practice properly, because they want to get good, they want to learn. Whereas the kid whose parents are kind of forcing them to be here won't learn as well, because they're not going to discipline themselves to do all the things that they need to do in order to excel, because they don't really desire to be here. So our self-control, our ability to self-control and self-discipline relies a lot on what our desires are. So in my mind, desire always overcomes, and we make our choices and we do everything based on our desires, basically. If I desire, when we come to class, we desire to partner with certain partners, and we desire to sit over here, we desire to stand over there, we desire to eat this, and we basically live off of that. All right. Now there's obviously healthy and good desires, and then there's unhealthy desires and corrupt desires. Right. So self-discipline, self-control is basically the fruit of a good, healthy desire. All right. So now, if I want to go on a diet, if I want to learn, or if I want to take sweets out of my diet and replace it with, let's replace the cookies with the carrots. My self-control and my self-discipline will work to a certain extent until I really truly desire to eat the cookie more than I do the carrots. So if my desire to eat the cookie is greater at any time than it is to eat the carrots, or the fact that I desire to eat the carrots for the healthy factor, then I'll eat the cookies. If somebody is a smoker and they want to stop smoking, they may be able to self-control and self-discipline themselves to a certain extent until they have a bad day and the desire to smoke is greater than their desire is to not smoke. Then they'll smoke the cigarette. So desire plays a very important role in these things, and how the question then becomes, how do we change our desires? What if I desire to go on a diet, but I keep failing because at any given moment I might desire more to have ice cream or to have cake or whatever, than I do to follow the diet. So how do I then change my desire so that I can self-control and self-discipline myself properly in order to achieve my goals? It's a good question. Generally it has to be some sort of enlightenment or sudden impact, sudden experience that really makes a desire shift. Really desires is what takes place deeply in your heart. So what is my heart's desire? What is the deepest part of my mind? What is it that I'm really thinking? What is it that I really want? Who am I really? That's what it comes down to. And the dieting and the health factor. Maybe somebody has a little heart attack or something that causes fear. So they go. The doctor says, "Man, if you don't start to eat better, if you don't start to exercise a little bit, you're not going to live much longer, right?" So something like that might have a traumatic, desire shift in somebody that now, because of that fear that was instilled in them, they desire more now to be healthy and to not experience that again. And so their self-control and self-discipline kicks in place because they truly desire to not have another heart attack, or they truly desire now to be healthy from that experience. Something like that. It might be sometimes a documentary that you watch where you're like, whoa, they're telling you all these things that you didn't realize, and it just really affects you, so it changes your desire to stop eating this and to start eating that. That's another kind of experience that may happen. It may be something that happens to a friend of yours. It may be a story that you read in a magazine. It could be a lot of different things. For me personally, as a man of faith, I rely on prayer. I rely on God to change my heart, to change my desire. That's one of the beauties of the faith, is that as me knowing that God is my creator, that He is in control of all things, that He's sovereign, that He can also take control of my heart and make desire transformations. I kind of see that as the job of the Holy Spirit. So I rely on prayer. If I'm struggling with something, if there's something that I want, that I know I should stay away from, or if there's something that I'm doing that I know I shouldn't be doing, self-discipline and self-control, they work for a time, but we all fail. We're all weak when it comes to that, because once again we rely on our desires and we follow our desires, and it's hard to overcome them. So it's a matter of changing them if we know that what we're doing is wrong. So through prayer, through good, honest prayer, God has the power to transform my heart, your heart, anybody's heart. And He's done that for me many, many, many times. And I've seen that power at work. And I've been through that experience. And so I've learned to rely on that more and more than my own self to overcome things. And when I do try to do things on my own, typically I may excel for a little while, and then I fail eventually. Or I might feel like, okay, I'm doing pretty well, and then I get this sense of self-righteousness, so to speak, where you start to believe, well, I can do this on my own, and I did do this on my own, and now this gives me a certain kind of power or status, and that's a very dangerous place to be. So in the end, while self-control and self-discipline are good, they can lead down a bad path if that's what we focus on, if that's what we rely on. They can lead in a path of self-righteousness, whereas self-discipline and self-control are also the fruit of a healthy desire. So what really matters in the end is what we desire, and whether what we desire is healthy and good, or if it is unhealthy and corrupt. And if we need to make desire shifts, if we recognize that, we can do that through prayer. We can do it through outside experiences, sometimes through reading books, through watching documentaries, through talking to people. Those things can also help transform our desires. And this is very important because if we want to succeed, if we want to excel in what we do, we need to have the proper desires there in the first place. So when you're struggling with something, if you're doing something that you know to be wrong and you struggle with that, how can you change your desire? If there's something that you know you should be doing that you're not, like maybe as a father or as a husband or as an employee, as a friend, whatever it may be, if there's something that you know you should be doing that you're not, you may have this small desire to do it, but the desire is not strong enough for you actually to overcome the desire of not wanting to do it at the same time. So until our desire becomes stronger to do something than to not do something, we're not going to do it. Maybe for a short time, but not in the long run. Or until our desire is stronger to quit doing something that we know we shouldn't be doing than it is to continue doing it, then we'll continue doing it. All right? Our desire has to be completely shifted. It can't be partial. That's why I think prayer is so powerful, because in my life, in my own experiences, there's things that I've done in the past that I may have struggled with in the past that I have absolutely zero desire to do now. And that's come through prayer for me, just a 100% desire shift. I have no desire for these old things of the old self, so to speak. So I see the power in that, and I've experienced it. And I want you guys to consider these things. I want you to consider the differences between self-control, self-discipline, and then ultimately the power of the desire. And the desire, in the end, is ultimately who you are. What you desire the most, in the end, is who you are, and that's who you become, and that's what you do. So it's very important that we learn to pay attention to that. If we have these little inklings of desire that, I want to do this, I should be doing that. Well, let's pay attention to that, and let's see what we can do about it in order to really have a true desire transformation.